Hey everyone, it's Bubbles and welcome back to my channel. Also, welcome if you are new. So today marks the start of this week's book vlog. Not really a 24-hour readathon because my body likes sleep. Anyways, besides the point. Whatever you want to call it. So I decided that the week I'm recording this, I'm actually on vacation from work. So I wanted to focus heavily on my reads for this month. Because I'm behind on my planned reads for this year. Because I could not finish Throne of Glass last month. So we're gonna be working on that this week. So I'm figuring this video will span over a few days. It is Tuesday the 12th. Right? Yes, it is the 12th today. So I'm recording this basically the day after I recorded my August wrap up and September TBR last week. So yes. But as for my plans for what I'm reading, if you didn't see my last video, I'm gonna focus heavily on these two books, at least this week, and then we shall see what we get into later, if I end up finishing them, any one of them, but I mostly wanted to focus on, this trilogy, so A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I had originally planned this for my September, this trilogy, but I'm trying to at least get through the first one this week. It's only about, like, a little over 300 pages, and it is a more contemporary style, so I can get through these relatively faster than, some other kinds of books, but this is a young adult mystery thriller. So we follow our main character, Pippa. Her nickname is Pip in this, but she is a senior in high school, and she starts doing her senior project, so her capstone on, I believe it's just a famous case at her high school or hometown, but it's, she's basically following this case that happened, and she has, like, an inkling that whoever was framed for the murder wasn't actually the culprit. So as she's diving into this case, she starts seeing, like, things that were missed or things that were covered up by her local police and things. And she kind of delves deep into this investigation. But it sounds right up my alley. I do love a good mystery, especially one that's, like, leaning on true crime kind of things. So, but yeah. So I'm hoping to definitely get this read through. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've also noticed when people speak on this, they also have, like, little snippets in between chapters of, like, summaries and also, like, texts and things. Yeah, project logs, etc. and interviews interspersed with the chapters, which is interesting. So I'm excited for this one. So yes. And then as for the other thing I was planning on reading is, I am currently in the very, very, like, deep of it in Throne of Glass. So I am on Tower of Dawn now. So this series is by Sarah J. Maas, if you're not familiar, but this is the 7th in this series, if you're including Assassin's Blade. So yeah, pretty into the thick of it. But this one is taking place at the same time as Empire of Storms, but this is on the perspective of two characters that have split off from the main group and gone on their own little journey. So we're kind of following them in that. I know that people normally recommend tandem reading this one and Empire of Storms. I did not do that, obviously, because it was just unrealistic for me to be reading both of them at the same time with how I read books. I take most of my books to work and read them there, because a lot of the time I do not read at home when I have free time. This month specifically, I've been engrossed in Baldur's Gate 3, so that takes up most of my free time. But anyway, but yeah, and also just my first read-through of Throne of Glass, because this is my first read-through. I wanted to read them separately, so honestly, so far, I'm glad I'm reading them separately, because the ending of Empire Storms was brutal, and I need a little bit of a breather from the stuff that's happening before I just, like, dive right into Kingdom of Ash. So, yeah. So that's how I'm reading through this. But yeah, so that's also kind of a thing I'm going to be working on, kind of on the back burner, because since I didn't finish Throne of Glass last month like I wanted to, I'm trying to not let it impede on my other planned reads for each month, so it's kind of become, like, less of a priority now. Especially since I was thinking I could get through this whole series and just binge the entire thing over the summer, and I'm starting to get to a point where I just kind of need a break from it, kind of need to read stuff else that isn't this world, just for a little bit of a break. So yeah, and hopefully it'll help me get through the last 2 books in the series easier. But yes, so I had decided to drag you along for me reading these 2 things, and we shall see how it goes. So yeah, but I haven't gotten started with any of these reads quite yet, so I'm going to go probably like every 100 pages for Good Girl's Guide, and then probably when stuff happens in this, because this is about 700 pages, so yes. But I will come back with my first thoughts on Good Girl's Guide, because I'm going to start reading that one first. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Okay, so first book update. I have read about 100 pages, well, 100 pages exactly, out of this so far. So already I'm like loving this so far. This is giving me like exactly what I wanted out of like a mystery, true crime-ish kind of book. So I'm really enjoying it so far. And so far we've mostly just gotten like a general summary of the case that she's covering, and also like some interviews she's done that are like preliminary, of just trying to understand like the victim and also the suspect, the main suspect. And also we've already gotten like her main theories, and things are starting to shake up a little bit. But as for the actual case in this, because we learned about it relatively early, so it's not really a spoiler, but it's pretty much about about 4 or 5 years ago in Fairview, Connecticut, Andy Bell went missing, and she was never found. Her body was never found. And so the police, like, decided to call her, dead, but they couldn't ever find her body or anything, so she's basically absent. So they had no more leads, so they declared her dead. And their main suspect was her boyfriend, Sal Singh, who, so they both were seniors at the time of this going on in the high school, but Sal was the main suspect. He had been her boyfriend for, like 4 months when this happened, but they could never, like, actually charge him because he committed suicide, shortly after they declared her missing. So it's very much up in the air. The only evidence they found, of connecting Sal to her disappearance was they found Andy's phone on his person when they found his body. There was his fingerprints on her steering wheel in her car, and her car had been found missing out off on a road somewhere in town. And then there was her blood in her trunk of her car. And then they found her blood under his fingernail, like one of his fingernails. So that was kind of like the only evidence they found. And also the fact that he didn't really have like a solid alibi. He had been gone for several hours, not several, only a couple hours after a party he had went to, and that space and time he didn't really have anyone that could have like said he was somewhere else. He was by himself. So the few hours leading up to her supposedly disappearing. So yeah, that's kind of the case we're going off of. And so far with Pip's interviews and other things, because she's contacted Sal's brother is a main person in this so far. Also, she's contacted a few of Sal's friends, because she actually has connection to one of his friends, because her best friend is her sister. Her best friend's sister was friends with Sal, so she kind of knows him from there, because she was always at her friend's house, so she had run into him there. And then she's contacted a few of Andy's friends as well, and then she also contacted like someone from the police force in terms of getting like their procedure for like a missing case, like how they go about dealing with that kind of thing. So, and then there's also like actual statistics in here that are interspersed between the chapters, and I just really like how this is set up. The normal chapters in this are quite short, and then in between them will be her summary, because she's like logging everything she's learning as she's going through this case, because it's for her project, right? And she's putting like transcripts of interviews and other things like that, and it's like tickling the good part in my brain that loves true crime and investigating and stuff, because I might have mentioned it before on the channel that I am a chemistry major, but mainly what I want to go into is like forensics. So this stuff is like very much my favorite kind of thing to like read about, like watch things about. And I've watched so many true crime documentaries on Netflix, like it's not even funny. So this is definitely tickling the funny part of my brain, and I'm just enjoying it. So yeah, within the first 100 pages is part 1, so I am now getting into part 2. And yes, also our main character Pip, I love her. Like the parts we're getting that are unrelated to like most of it's only related to the case, which I like. We're very much focusing on the case and her investigation, but we do get little snippets of her like interacting with her friends, which is fun, so we can actually like understand how she is as a character and some of her friends' characters and things like that. So, but most of it is focusing on the case, which I really like, because if I'm getting into a series that's about her like reinvestigating a cold case, I want it to be really focusing on the cold case and not necessarily like extraneous stuff I may not care about as much. So I'm glad that that's how this is written. So I'm going to keep reading because I am thoroughly enjoying this so far. But yeah, I will catch up with another book update when I'm around the probably 200 page mark. So yeah. Hello, I am back with another book update. It is like 8 p.m. Yes, there is a wash on my it is like 8 p.m. at night. So I have to use my overhead light that makes me look like I don't have eyebrows. Anyways, so I have read another 100 pages out of this. I am about 200 pages in now. Definitely over the halfway mark. I think according to Goodreads, I am 54% through. So, anyways, besides the point. So yeah, I'm still like super into this. Like, I'm really enjoying this so far. It's really like consistently uncovering like bits and pieces as we go along and more investigation stuff. And I just really like that we're basically like uncovering and solving this with the main character, Pip. And also the so I mentioned that it's concerning Andy, who was a senior in high school 4 or 5 years ago when this happened. And because she was the victim, and her boyfriend, Sal Singh, who was the main suspect of the case, and then the whole town basically ran with that he was guilty, even though he wasn't ever charged. He wasn't ever tried in court. So she's actually hanging out, well, not hanging out, but like investigating with Sal's brother Ravi, cause she did a interview with him first. Couldn't remember the name, but yeah, so she did an interview with him first, and he kind of is like always been wanting answers regarding everything that happened. So he was like, yeah, I want to do this with you, and I want to keep, open line of communication kind of thing. Which isn't really a spoiler. That happened within like the first 50 pages, but I forgot to mention it earlier. But yeah, so he's kind of like helping her along the way, and also giving her any other insight that he could think of. So yeah, we're kind of just literally solving this along with her, which I really like, because this kind of stuff is like, I love this stuff. I love investigations. I love cold cases. Like, this is just, I love it. So, and then also, we've gotten a lot of other things happening. We're learning, like, secrets about Andy herself, and how she was not who she was painting out to be. She's supposed to be like this super popular girl at school, but she's doing bad things behind the scenes that Pip ends up finding out about her. And then the fact that, like, we think she's like kind of a terrible person, like she was also a bully on top of that, but we're also finding out that her home life wasn't even that great at all. Like, within the first... We find that out in an interview with one of Andy's sister's friend that Pip ends up coming in contact with, and she kind of lays out basically what their home life was like. And it's not great. So you kind of feel for Andy at the same time, like, because she still is a victim in this. She's still missing or dead, we don't know. But, and then we just start getting more secrets uncovered on other people that we know about that are involved in this. And lots of people end up becoming not so innocent. So, as these things kind of go. So it's kind of just like raising the questions of because like a lot of people have a lot of things going in their lives, but it's figuring out what is just people trying to survive and cope with terrible things that are happening in their life, or whether they're actually like suspects enough to do something so terrible. You know, like it's really raising the question of, because I don't really think sitting here saying because someone did something like slightly immoral is like, well, they're automatically a bad person. Like, everyone makes mistakes, kind of a thing. So it's really just raising the question of like, who can Pip trust? Who is actually the real like suspects of this? And I think the way that Pip is going about it is very similar to how I would go about it, in terms of like who she's suspecting, who actually has like stakes in the murder, etc. Because she's got like a person of interest list that she's creating, and yeah, the way she's just kind of collecting information and like the little summaries after each chapter is basically painting how she's working through this, and I just think it aligns with how I think, because she's also supposed to be like a super great student, like an A student, like not necessarily a teacher's pet, but like, I don't know, I feel a lot of myself in her, which is funny, but yeah, so that's fun. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. This is just itching the part of my brain I need it to. It's giving me exactly what I wanted in this series. And I'm just very curious how this one's going to end and how it segues into the next one. Because I might just binge this whole series. Like, I just might be that into it. Because as of right now, I am. So, I'm going to keep going. And I will see you with my next update. So, don't know if it's going to be tonight or not. But, anyways, yes, I will see you with my next update. And I probably will update you with my final thoughts on this book. Because I'm thinking I'm going to finish it tonight. Because I only have about 180 pages left. So, I think I'm just going to get through the end of it and come back. So yes, I will see you soon. Hello, I am back with another update. It's been about a day since the last time I recorded, because I was doing some other stuff yesterday, like going to the bookstore because I was bored, which I actually bought a few books, so I was gonna do a little haul here in a minute, but I wanted to first give my final thoughts on this because I finished it the day that I said I would, so a day ago, but yeah. So when I started this, I finished it that night, and I really enjoyed this. Like, this was a quite fast read. It was basically a one-sitting read for me, which I haven't really done that. So, but yeah, so for my final thoughts for this, I can't really remember what I've said or things, but like the uncovering of like the ending, so the last 180 pages, we got a lot of twists and turns at the end of this. We got some like reveals on people's characters that I wasn't expecting, and also just some like other things that happened. Some other questions were raised but not necessarily answered, which I feel like is fine, because at the end of it, I feel like Pip's kind of like quote that stuck with me was, there was a lot of people involved in this case, in the things that happened in this case, but not necessarily did Pip know everything about everyone's part that they played. Some of it was based on assumption, but she did end up like catching the main focus, and she describes it as being like, yeah, she delved into Andy and Sal's personality and background for this case mostly, so she knew a lot about like their secrets and things, and then also like other suspects and etc. But she didn't know everyone's secrets because it seems like everyone had secrets, and she would never know because she can't just go and delve into everyone's life. And so I just find it interesting that there's still a lot that isn't known in terms of this investigation, but it was still wrapped up really nicely at the end of this, as nice as it could have been. It's really brutal. um there's a certain thing that happens right around when I started reading in, after my last reading update. That was really mean. So if you get to around like the 200 page mark and after, there's some stuff happening. I would definitely say some trigger warnings regarding animals specifically. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that was rude. But also, like, it raised a lot of questions with the suspects involved in this. Like, everyone had their own issues within this case, so not everyone was perfect, but there were some people in this where you can understand why they did what they did. Some people are like, deserve no like second chances, but there are a few people in here that it was like, oh, okay. So but yeah, it really just like calls to question, like, not everyone's perfect. Not everyone can do what they want to do in life and have a perfect moral compass. It's not possible, and I think that's realistic in the game of life. So yeah. But, and then also there was like a very small romance plotline in this as well. It's very subtle, so just so you know. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this. It was a fast read. I liked the way it was written. I liked the way it was set up for the investigation. How we got most of it was like her making log entries, Pip making log entries, and also like her interviews that she recorded, and then other things. And then that was in between like actual written chapters, where in those chapters we were still getting new information on the case. So it was still like we were getting something every time we had a chapter or an interview or etc. And it was just little bits of information along the way. So I think that was done very well. It kind of kept you going, and like, I appreciate that while Pip covers a lot of like her own theories and stipulations with the case, we still had some, the reader still had some things they came to think about and theorize on their own, and not necessarily just Pip doing it. And I just realized that my frame broke across the room and fell off the wall. Fantastic. I swear to God. Anyways, that's besides the point. I just noticed that. Oh well. But yeah, so I appreciate that there was still room for the reader to do kind of their own thinking along the process, and it wasn't just all given to us. And also, I just liked a lot of the characters in this that we were meant to like. I think the humor in this, because it is quite humorous, to me it's funny, it's just not maybe everyone's cup of tea. Some of it is very much like punny dad humor, so if you don't like that, it doesn't happen enough that it should bother you, but it does happen. I thought it was funny because I have trash humor. So, but yeah. So, all in all, I ended up giving this I believe I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Just because there was like nearly next to nothing I would have changed in this. However, I was surprised that this case and her investigation of it is all encompassed in this first book, and that basically it gets delved into and solved within the entirety of this book. We do still get some extra stuff in terms of like the court case and etc. and updates on that in the second one, as I'm seeing now, because I started it already, but most of it is covered in this one, which I thought it was going to be the whole series. But it seems like the second one is delving into the aftermath, and also another mystery kind of springs up and falls into Pip's lap. So yeah, I just think that's interesting. So I think you could get away with just only reading the first one, because it is very complete by itself. So it makes me very curious as to what the rest of the series will be about, especially the third one. But just in case there's any spoilers in the summary of the third one, I'm not going to look at it. So yeah, but so I guess I can go ahead and move on to my little book haul, because I went to Half Price Books, which surprisingly I found nothing there. That is a first for me. I always find something there, but I also went to Barnes & Noble after, so I will share some fun, spooky things I got. So yes. So, very excited about this one. This is the one I've kind of been wanting for a while, and I was like, you know what? They probably have it at Barnes & Noble, and I really want it, so I did end up getting it. It's Slewfoot by Brom, so it's a tale of bewitchery, but I've just seen this, like, literally all over Book Talk. Everyone's talking about how this is, like, the best, like, witchy vibes book, and I needed it, because I love witchy things, but I guess I can just read out the synopsis on the back here, but, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him Father, Slayer, Protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon, Devil, to Abatha, a recently widowed outcast. Alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. And it's just giving me like Salem witch trials, like older witchy vibes. You feel me? So much more like darker kind of vibes, which I don't really have anything like that in my collection of witchy stuff, because this is my spell, magic and witchy shelf right here. So I don't really have anything like this. So I'm very excited for this. There's also like illustrations in here as well, which is really cool. And also the cover is just, it's just vibes. Anyways, so I'm very excited about this one. Okay, and then on a very similar witchy note, I also got Rachel Griffin's newest release, so Bring Me Your Midnight. I feel like Rachel Griffin has been an auto-buy author for me, because I have her other two books here. Now, the funny thing is I haven't read a single one of them yet. But we're just gonna ignore that, it's fine. But this one is yet another witchy thing. Also, her naked covers are gorgeous, but besides the point. So this one, because I love Rachel Griffin's concepts, and I also love the fact that her witches in her books are very, like, connected to nature. So the nature of witches is very much, which is right there, is very much like Each witch controls like a season, and their magic is very related to nature and the seasonal things. And then her next one, Wild is the Witch. That one's an enemies to lovers with a witch. But it's enemies to lovers with someone who doesn't like witches. So it's very much like opposing sides. In that one, she is very in tune with the animals and nature in that one, which I'm just loving that it's nature centered. And that is the same for this one as well. So this is about our main character who is being married off to the normal people on the mainland, so that the people from the mainland and her coven of witches can like settle their disagreements. And her coven's kind of been like appeasing those people from the mainland by channeling their magic into the ocean, to like calm the tides. But what happens is she meets this other guy who is very much attuned to very dark magic, and she's kind of set on the path of choosing whether to be loyal to her coven and help them get out of like gunpoint with the mainlanders because they just really don't like her coven, or fall into the trap of being in love with this guy who likes very dark magic. So it sounds very interesting. I'm excited. Sounds like a lot of peer pressure. Anyways, but yeah, I just, as soon as I heard that she had come out with a new book, which this was released last month, I believe, so I had to get it, and I saw they had it in hardback at Barnes & Noble, so yes. And then the next thing I picked up was a book by T. Kingfisher. So this is actually my first book I've gotten from this author, but I feel like of the ones that I've been seeing floating around, I was most interested in this one. So this is A House with Good Bones. This is a very short, but this is a like, I've seen it described as like a cozy horror mystery, which sounds very interesting because a lot of the horror I have is like very dark. But this is very much like, I don't know, I've just heard very interesting things with T. Kingfisher's works, and I'm just highly interested in her very weird and whimsical way of writing things, because I've heard like things about Nettle and Bone and like, you know. So this one is about this woman who goes back, I don't know, she's going back home to her mother's house, and when she returns, it's very different than when she used to live there as a child, and her mom's acting very strange. She's very jumpy, and she starts finding things around the house that are like out of place, like a jar of teeth. Random, but weird. So she keeps finding like weird stuff around the house and other clues. She's kind of solving the mystery of what's going on in this house, and I'm also very sure that this is a haunted house story. So very interested in this. So yeah. But yeah, this is the first one I wanted to get into for T. Kingfisher, since this is a new author to me. So yes. And then the last one I got was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I have been wanting this one for a very long time. I wanted it in hardback, but I think the only versions of this in hardback are like special editions, which are hard to find, obviously. But this one stands out to me. I know it's got some problems with it, like from what I've seen online and things, but I'm still highly interested in it. So this is like gothic, fantasy, romance, some supernatural vibes in it too. Our main character, she has some kind of like spirit trapped in her head, and it kind of protects her. and she's got magic because of it. But like, and she's going on like a journey with this man she ends up meeting, to kind of like silence the dark magic in the world of Blunder, I guess is what this place is called. So, the magic in this I have heard described as very interesting. I've heard the fantasy elements in this are very interesting as well. I think the one thing that people were like, with was actually the romance plot. So I'm okay with that. Because I've been known to not be super into like romance and fantasy romance. But anyways, so the fantasy elements and the magic elements really stand out to me, so I want to go into it because of that. And also I just really like gothic stuff. So yeah. But yeah, that is my Barnes & Noble haul. I thought to include it since I was planning on going to the bookstore while I was on vacation by myself. So yeah, and I did that, and it was fun. I went at like 7 p.m. at night, but who cares? So, and then back on the note of the reads, I have gotten about only 30 pages in this so far, but it's not shaking out to be like super exciting yet. So far, Pip and Sal have made a podcast to kind of recount her project she did in the first book, but also to give the public information on like what's happening on the trial, because right now we're going through the actual court case. I found myself getting very angry at some of the excerpts that are regarding the court case, because just people. I hate people. Anyway, it's very realistic and I hate it. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna have fun with that. But this is about the same length as the first ones. I think it's almost a little bit more, like 10 pages more, so it's close to 400 pages, but it's fine. This goes really fast. But yeah, so I will come back eventually, don't know when, with my next book update when I've read about 100 pages. I will try to keep as much spoiler free as I can, considering this is the second in the series, but you know. So, and then if I end up starting Tower of Dawn, I don't know, not really jumping to it right now. So yeah, we shall see how this goes. It'll be fine. But yeah, that is it for my update for right now. So I will see you hopefully soonish for another update. I've got like a few days left of my vacation, so yeah. We might just be playing Baldur's Gate for the rest of the time. I don't know. Depends what my brain decides to do. But anyways, I will see you the next time I see you. Anyways, hello again. So, it has been quite a few days since my last update. And I said that I was going to do another update on this when I was like halfway through or something. Nope, that didn't happen. So I finished this one. So I thought I would give like a summary of what was going on in here without any spoilers, of course, since it's the second in the series, and also my wrapped up thoughts on it. Because yeah, I did finish it. I finished it a few days ago, and I've already started on the third one already, so yeah. Anyways, so this one, I mentioned that the first one was basically like its own complete storyline, and it picks up in another mystery in the second one. So in this one, we are following the aftermath of the first one still. Just like in terms of like legal things, like court trials, etc. So that's happening in this. There's only one really that Pip focuses on, and it's kind of like a make or break kind of one. Not really, but like it means a lot. which is understandable. But anyway, so she's following that, or at least Ravi Singh is, because he's able to go there and actually sit in the trial, so he kind of relays it back to Pip. But she ends up starting a podcast and documenting her entire project from the first book and everything that she gathered during it, and starts posting it online. And so as she posts that, she also is posting like summaries of like what happened in court along the legal process throughout this book, which is interesting because we get to see like real life, realistic things happening in terms of like the legal system, which I do like the mystery parts of like mystery thrillers and true crime, but I also really like the court side of it in terms of gathering evidence and how it's presented and stuff. A lot of it makes me very mad, I'm not going to lie, because the way the court system works, and also just how things are done in a court, in terms of like the defendant versus the prosecution, etc., is just very like reality TV, and it just, it just kind of annoys me. So I feel like it captures that very well in this series, because I was getting very heated in some moments, which I enjoy. That's not a bad thing. So, and then about 100 pages in is when we get like the event that kind of kickstarts the actual plot line of this one, which in the first 100 pages we're kind of just getting like the setting of where we're at and some things that have happened since everything came out from the first one. So it's a little bit slow in the first 100 pages, just because we're getting that information, and also just the fact that I mentioned in the first one how it was written, most of the chapters, like the normal chapter format, is broken up by interviews and like logs from her project and like other information that's not in normal chapter book format, which makes it seem quicker to read through. There's not as much of it in this one, so it's a little bit slower to get through. As the new mystery starts happening in this, we do get a little bit more, but we definitely get more of just like a normal chapter book style writing in this. So I actually do get to like see how Holly Jackson's writing style is developing in this, which is, it's not bad. It's just there's some things that are very interesting about it I haven't really seen. And I see more of it in the third one, which I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, so we're getting more of that. Because it's more in a chapter book format in this one, we're kind of developing the mystery a little bit slower than the first one. Because the first one is so like boom, 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 it's a little bit different to go into this one as a sequel. Because for right now, I feel like the first one is the best in the series, just because it's so fast-paced, and we're, like, learning things every chapter, and that's not necessarily happening in this one. So that was interesting. And then, like, we get a culmination of, like, this big ending in this one, which I don't know if it necessarily, like, makes up for, like, the slight slowness throughout this one, because it is very like, it's a brutal ending, but the thing I have about the ending is it's a little bit predictable for me. I don't feel like the twist ending in this one is as much of a twist as the first one. I feel like the way things were unveiled in the first one was done in a much better way than this one was. I just feel like, based on the circumstances, you could pretty much figure out, like, what's going on a little early on. So it leaves less to, like, gradually going through the mystery as, like, in the first one. At least for me, in the first one, it wasn't as predictable. It could be for other people. I did, because this is young adult. But anyways, and then when I wrapped up the first one, I mentioned how there were still, like, some questions and mysteries that were unanswered in the first one. And they have actually bled into this one. Like, those are giving, like, the start of some of the things that get unfolded in this, which I found interesting. And it seems like it's happening in the third one as well. So it's like there's information in each one that kind of bleeds into the next one, which is interesting. So it's linked in that way. So I could say that if you do want to learn, like, more things about the stuff that gets unanswered at the end of the first one, to keep going through them, because this one wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good as the first one, because I did rate the first one like a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and this one got a 4 stars for me, so it's still pretty good. And then also, just like overall, yeah, this one was good. It still was giving me about the same vibe as the first one, and I really enjoyed that vibe. It was just a little bit slower than the first one. I think in part of it was just because of how the structure of this one was different than the first one. And also just, like, seeing how the environment around Pip, our main character, has started changing, and it's kind of becoming more like the horrors of reality are kind of coming in, and not everything is, like, cut and dry, and not everything is, like, easy to discern who's good and bad kind of a thing is coming out, and Pip is, like, becoming very different. Like, her character is very... she's got a lot of character development at the end of this one, and especially in what I've read of the third one now, so it's very interesting to see how she changes over this series. And I think that's kind of the best part for me, because I have really gotten to like her character quite a bit. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on this one. So let me talk a little bit about the third one. So the third one, As Good as Dead. This is the longest in the series. It's got about a little over 400 pages, I'm not sure. So yeah, the other ones were, the first one was 330 pages, and the second one, it was 340 pages. So both around the same size, but this one is definitely longer. I have gotten to the first 100 pages in this one, and so far it's a very different vibe than the first two in the series, and considering the major ending in the second one, I understand. But like, it seems like over the course of this series, the style and structure of this writing has gradually gotten to more like traditional chapter book, and I'm really seeing like Holly Jackson's writing develop throughout the series, which is interesting. And like the writing style in this one, I feel like is interesting. I just don't know if it works the whole entire time because it's a little bit repetitive. But like Pip in this one, this is following directly after what happened in the second one, and she's like kind of messed up. Like, your girl's a little traumatized in this one, and she's kind of having to deal with how to go through life now after the fit hit the shan, you know. Like, it was kind of a mess how things happened in the ending of the second one, and she's kind of having to reconfigure herself and her reality, because she's like, nothing's black and white anymore, and everything's gray, and it's becoming more and more difficult to figure out who's actually good and bad. And she's realizing that, like, I think I mentioned it in the first one, but like the fact that this series questions, like, people can't, I feel like it's hard to discern whether people fall in line with like being completely good or completely bad. That it seems like every person has done bad things along the way, as we're seeing more information and getting revealed more stuff on all the characters. And that's very true in this one. Like, it takes a very dark turn, I'm not gonna lie. In this one, she's kind of, we've kind of gotten to the point at about 100 pages in where she's starting to come to the realization that she has a stalker after everything that happened in the second one. And even still, some of it was happening after the end of the first one, which is what we're finding out, is that some stuff that was happening in the middle of the second one is what leads to this one. So that part's interesting, of how we're just kind of getting bits that lead to the next one, because the mystery that was just in the second one was finished in the second one, so we're doing a whole nother bit in this one. So each book has its own separate thing going on, but threads are still continued throughout the series. But yeah, so being in Pip's head when she's very traumatized, very different than the girl we used to know in the first one, and I just find it really interesting how she's developed, and I'm curious to see how this one's gonna end, because she's kind of at a point in her life where she's like really not okay. And I'm just like curious as to whether she's going to save herself, or if she's gonna go and dig herself into an even deeper hole. So yeah, but I'm going to cut off this fun vlog for now. And I will finish the wrap up of this one in my September wrap up, because I feel like the length of this vlog is long enough. So yeah, but I just wanted to give like most of my thoughts on the first two, and then kind of what I'm getting in this one, and I will catch up with you guys with my final thoughts on this series and my wrap up. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. I realize now it's probably going to be up later than I wanted in terms of during the week, but oh well. But yeah, so that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.